me, but
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Spooky.
So we're gonna call this ARC meeting to order. Hold on a second. Just have to check something. December 6th, 2023. Meeting of the ARC. Present committee members, we have Patrick Tregenza Chair, Justin Pauly Vice Chair, Payam Ostavar, Eric Palmer, Shelley Schmidt, and Kimberly Turgan. And Erica, if you can announce the staff members for city.
staff members present today
Sorry.
are planning manager Levi Hill, senior associate planner Chris Schmidt, associate planner Matthew Buggart, recording secretary Erica Barrera, and recording secretary Spencer Argenbright.
Thank you. I guess we're gonna ask if any member of the public or committee would like to actually, we're gonna open the consent agenda. And we're gonna ask if any member of the public would like to discuss a item on the consent agenda. And if there's anybody here, you can raise your hand. And if there's anybody online, if their hands are raised, you can let us know.
I see no hands raised online, but I will remind the public how to participate over Zoom. Members of the public are encouraged to join our meetings via Zoom Gov. This meeting is also streamed live on youtube.com/City of Monterey. To join Zoom meeting, join the Zoom meeting from a computer or phone, use the link or phone numbers on the agenda posted at isearchmonterey.org. To join by telephone, please dial 833-568-8864 toll free, then use the webinar ID. Today's webinar ID is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public speakers will be called upon in order of hands raised. There is a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. Any hands raised?
Still no hands raised.
Comments on the consent agenda is basically the approval of minutes from last meeting. I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda in the minutes of November 15th.
I'll second that. Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstaining? Any noes? Okay, that closes the consent agenda. Now, we'd like to open the floor to public comments for any items that are not on today's agenda. Anything going on online, Spencer?
Nothing online.
Okay, great. Thank you. We're going to open the first public appearance item. Consider 2075 North Fremont Street sign permit application SI 23-0206. And Matthew, you have a report?
Yes, I will share my screen. Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Buggart, and I'm an associate planner with the City of Monterey's Planning Division. Today, we're here to talk about 2075 North Fremont Street for a sign permit application, specifically for a sign face replacement of an internally illuminated vehicle-oriented sign. The recommendation from city staff is that the ARC adopt the resolution to approve the sign permit application. The site is located along North Fremont Street. The general plan land use designation for this property is commercial, and its zoning is VAF. Any new signage or replacement signage in a VAF zone, which is visitor accommodation facility, needs to come through ARC for approval. The proposal is to replace the face of an internally illuminated sign. It's near the roadway by their entry driveway where you would check in for the hotel. And it's an update to the name. The existing name is Quality Inn and the new name is Scottish Fairway Inn of Monterey. There would be no other changes to the sign. It is just a replacement of the sign face. While it is located within the VAF zone, I know there's a lot of text here. While it's located within the VAF zone, it's within the specific plan area of the North Fremont specific plan. And that specific plan area also is usually brought into consideration when it comes to signage. And it says, first and foremost, that the sign face of an existing internally illuminated sign may be replaced once, regardless of purpose or circumstance. So while this is not technically designated PCNF to be subject to this plan, it is typically taken into consideration. And the rest of this slide is just some additional details on the parameters of it, which in the case of the proposal, it would entirely fall underneath each of these other policies of the specific plan. There are three findings for approval required of ARC: that the proposal achieves the purposes and objectives of the sign ordinance, that the proposal is consistent with the guidelines, or ARC determines that there can be an expansion of those guidelines in that the signage achieves the purpose and objectives, and third, that the proposal is consistent with the general plan. The first item was found consistent as it is identifying an existing business. Third one also found consistent going through ARC for signage at a VAF property. And there's an asterisk next to 2 because I'm about to talk about it on the next slide. There are 2 items in particular that are inconsistent for this sign. The vehicle-oriented signs are typically required to be located on properties where the building is set back 20 feet or more. And in this case, the existing sign and the existing buildings are closer than 20 feet to the front property line. And secondly, our sign ordinance guidelines state that the base of a vehicle-oriented sign needs to be full width. And for the case of this sign, it's a little squished in at the bottom in comparison to the existing sign. There are no specific proposed conditions for this project, and standard conditions of approval would apply. And staff's recommendation is that the ARC adopt a resolution to approve the sign permit. With that, that concludes staff's presentation. I think the applicant may be online.
Okay. Are there any committee questions for Matthew before we move to the applicant? It's the exact same spot and the base isn't changing.
Nothing would be changing except
Nothing
for
would
the
be
sign
changing,
face.
just the, okay, good. All right, well, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
I do not see the applicant online.
Okay. All right, let's open it up for public comments. Anybody here today or online have anything to say about this sign on North Fremont?
There are no hands raised online.
Okay, in that case, let's call for a motion.
I move to approve the adoption of the sign permit application for 2075 North Fremont Street.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So item 3 passes unanimously. Thank you. Let's move on to item number 4. Consider 601 Lighthouse Avenue Architecture Review Permit Application ARP 22-0201. And Chris Schmidt is going to give us a presentation.
Excuse me,
Sorry.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh, right,
from
right.
this
I'm so
item.
sorry. Thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
Yes, Kimberly Turgan is going to recuse herself, and Erica, can you text her when it's clear to, the coast is clear, as they said?
Okay, thank you, Chair and members of the ARC. My name is Chris Schmidt. I'm a senior associate planner for the city. And I've been working with the applicant on this project. This is a project that the ARC did review towards the end of 2022. And I'll go into a little bit more background on what occurred at that time. So to start, the staff recommendation is to adopt a resolution approving the architectural review permit. Just some background about the site. It is located in the New Monterey area. It is located within the Lighthouse specific plan. It is zoned PCLH. It has a general plan land use designation of commercial. And you can see here it's at the corner of Lighthouse Avenue and Hoffman Avenue. This is a slide that I showed in my previous presentation, but I think we have a few, well, today we have one new member. And so I just wanted to show what the surrounding land uses were. So we have the Lighthouse District, which is generally a mixed use district across the street. There are housing units at the second floor, and then the kind of surrounding uses are restaurants and retail, bookstores, those types of things. And then up the hill, we have a multifamily district. There's lots of single family homes in that district. There's I believe a hostel where you see VAF on the bottom left-hand side, and then commercial and more hotel, VAF hotel uses on the east side. So what is the project? So it is the conversion of a commercial building to mixed use with 5 residential units, new interior parking, roof access, stair and elevator with a roof deck, and ground level retail. So this project went to the Planning Commission last year and received approval by way of a use permit to exceed the 30 units per acre maximum that's established by the Lighthouse specific plan. The building currently, it's currently vacant, and it had previously housed retail uses in the past. The second story was previously the Paper Wing Theater, so it was kind of a vaulted ceiling use, kind of a large space with this theater use at the second floor. So in the case of this project, the retail area at the first floor would be reduced. The applicant would convert part of it into interior parking, storage, a waste and recycling area. There'd be an elevator, mechanical and electrical rooms. And at the second story, the vaulted roof theater would be converted to 2-story residential units, so 5 units, each having 2 stories. In addition, the exterior fenestration, kind of the windows and doors and other details would be updated to be compatible with the building style. And then it is worth noting the roof access elevator would exceed the height limit, but this is allowed by the city code. And here is the existing building. This is Hoffman Street, the side street. View of the rear. And here we see on the left, of course, the project, and on the right, the existing condition elevation. So this is the front. And it's worth noting, I've highlighted in orange here the various light fixtures proposed. So this is one of the things that the applicant had to bring forward for final architectural review, was their kind of remaining materials and detail, other details, including lighting. So they've got these cylindrical sconces at the exterior wall at the front of the building. They also have those at the entrance on this side. They have overhead lighting. You can see this pedestrian door on the right-hand side here. This is for their access to the garage and residential units. And then here's that side elevation. And this is where you can really see some of those roof improvements, including that roof deck. You have your elevator. One of the changes here is this elevator was increased, the height was increased, and that's because of the manufacturer's specifications required for the type of elevator that they're including here. So that's that change from the original design. Again, looking at more lighting. So at the roof deck, they have these inset strip lighting that would be set inside the railing. that would be shining downwards at the deck itself. They wouldn't be visible from offsite. And then likewise, this strip lighting that would actually be underneath kind of this lip from this architectural detail here. So again, also not necessarily showing, and just also projecting that light against the building face. So it would be shielded. And then one wall pack sconce at the rear here. This is at an actual driveway easement for the neighboring property. And then I'll also mention the other change that was made to the original design was this access stair to the roof here. Looking at floor plans, so here's the ground level retail and parking first floor plan. So as I mentioned, retail space that fronts Lighthouse Avenue, and then a new garage driveway door here into this garage space. The second floor plan, this is the main level of the residential units where the entrances to each unit is. Basically, these units would be accessed from the street level on Hoffman Avenue through a doorway up in this kind of area here, and then residents would access either via stair into this floor or elevator from the garage. And then the third floor plan. So these are typically the master bedrooms or offices, media room use type rooms. And lastly, the roof access and deck, the roof floor plan here. And I will highlight, had come up in the past that this portion of the roof, the railings themselves don't meet the height limit, and so this part is not included. And they've included a note that they will pursue a future either a variance or a code amendment to allow this use in the future. So materials and finishes also required for final review. These were not necessarily all provided in the previous ARC review, but they've included them today. So we have white stucco to match existing, bronze aluminum casement windows throughout the exterior, glass doors at the entrances, aluminum wall packs and cylindrical wall sconces, and strip lighting, as I previously noted. So moving on to findings for approval, the ARC has 4 findings required for approval of an architectural review permit. The first is that the proposed siding, form, mass, and architectural style are appropriate. Staff made this finding, the new changes match this style and are similar in scale to the existing. The roof access is compatible and sited uphill, and it would appear secondary to the rest of the improvements at the building. Second finding is that the views, privacy, and living environment are not unreasonably impaired. Staff made this finding, the view impacts are limited due to neighboring development, as I previously had shown. Actually, I did not mention in the land use map, but directly adjacent to the site is a church that has a fairly tall roof line, and so a lot of these improvements are actually not visible or minimally visible to the neighborhood above. So that would not have a major impact. Staff found that this was not an unreasonable impact to view and privacy. In addition, the roof deck railings are set back, ranging from 11.5 to 12 feet from the sides, which would really limit privacy impacts. And then lastly, the Lighthouse specific plan does allow roof decks as open space, and this one has been designed to be compatible with the surrounding environment. The next finding is that the project is consistent with city plans and design guidelines. Staff made this finding, the project is consistent with the Lighthouse specific plan, general plan, and general plan land use designation of commercial. The commercial land use designation does allow residential and mixed use development. The alterations are mixed use in character and support the plan vision by creating high quality housing and commercial development along a transit oriented corridor, one of the major goals of the specific plan. And then lastly, the exterior finish, colors, materials, and all other exterior features are appropriate. As I noted, the materials previously staff found that these were appropriate for the site. And with that, staff recommends approval. I'll also note staff did include a condition of approval because the driveway at the rear of the building does have an easement for access to the neighboring property owner. The staff essentially included a condition that would require that the neighboring property owner either agree that the intent of providing driveway access is still there with the proposed design, or that they have to change their easement in some way to make the use of that stair at the rear work for both parties, essentially. So with that, that concludes my presentation. The staff recommendation is to approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Any questions for Chris?
Chris, I do have a question on that exterior stairway that goes to the roof. Is there any lighting proposed
Not for the-
associated with that? The only light is like below the stairway, I think.
I don't see any fixtures that are proposed above the stair itself. I would probably ask the applicant to clarify if there's a requirement.
Thank you. Would that be a building department requirement if it's a stairway?
There could be a building code requirement for lighting at the exterior. I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, thank you.
I kind of remember last time we discussed this project that there was, and I don't see it here, but the parameters, like there's a height limit, like they can't put up poles or trees or Christmas trees or.
You're correct. Thank you. And I was just reviewing the resolution during the prior presentation. The ARC did include a condition that nothing like furniture at the roof could exceed the height of the railing or
Railing.
something to that effect. Is something that I was intended to mention. So if the ARC would like to continue requiring that condition, that's fine with the staff.
Okay, because I think it was one of the things I was like, what if they put up like 8-foot poles and string lights? Then it's like, whoa, like that's a big eyesore. So it'd be nice to say that's the railing, that's where your lighting is, and that's it. So yeah, if we could get that back in there.
Yeah.
And then my other question was this thing with the easement with the neighbor, does that not have to be part of this resolution? Or is it just a condition that you are working on? Or
There's a condition of approval part of the resolution.
okay, so it's
It would
already
be adopted with the staff recommendation today. And then I also note the neighbor and their legal representation is here today
Okay,
too. And so
great.
we could certainly ask them questions.
Any other questions for Chris? Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the ARC. And well, first off, I want to thank city staff. My name is Christopher Barlow. I'm with Waldron and Dost Architects. I'm the architect of record for the project. And thanks to Chris and Levi for helping us navigate this project through what's been a journey, certainly. Very pleased to be here because I'm hoping this is one of the last steps we've got before we hope to pull the building permit this month. I'll start by answering the two questions that came up and try to clarify those a little bit. The roof level, all the lighting that's integrated into the railings is intended to be sufficient. That's all we want. That's all we need. So we won't be looking at any additional roof lighting, any string lighting or anything like that. The lighthouse specific plan is surprisingly strict when it comes to having anything come above that roof level. So we did consider for a few moments there adding a trellis to soften that elevator tower, but that actually isn't allowed by the lighthouse specific plan. So we're good with that condition, and just want to let you know that that's something that isn't planned, that we don't have any plans to bring out the Christmas lights on December 25th or anything like that. Also, regarding the stair and the easement, that stair is strictly there as a emergency egress stair. The elevator would serve most of our expected journeys up to that roof. Certainly the stairs could be used if needed, but at night we're thinking that we'll actually just have the same shielded LED along the railing system coming around, so we'd have the required 1-foot candle required for the exit for egress there. And aside from that, on stepping back on a more general tone, I'm really pleased to be involved with this project. I think it's an excellent example of adaptive reuse happening right here in Monterey. I've grown to really love this building as the time's gone on. I've been working on it for about a year, and the owner's been working on it even longer. But right now the building is not being loved. It is, really kind of neglected just from the time it's taken to get this process through. So certainly we're really looking forward to the chance to improve it, fix up the broken windows, get residents in there and make that a vibrant and thriving part of the Monterey Lighthouse District there. And with that, I'd like to introduce the owner, Ethan Hare. He's one of the owners and also the developer and well-renowned local contractor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, city staff, for all the time that you've put into it. I would particularly like to acknowledge Mr. Schmidt. He's really gone above and beyond to help champion this project for us. For the commissioner that wasn't at the last hearing, I am born and raised on the peninsula. I grew up in going to the church next door. So I've seen and looked at this building all my life and excited to be part of its next chapter. As mentioned, we've received previous unanimous approval. We're excited for this project. It's been shared that this is a poster child, and we've really had a slog to get through plan check and a few other challenges. One thing I will mention is that our neighbor is here tonight, and I'm pleased to share that as of this afternoon, we do have a written agreement that they have fully completed. Now the ball's in my court and one of my partners to fully execute and get recorded. Which it's always nice to have good and reasonable neighbors. It's been a tough couple of years. Interest rates have gone up, material costs has gone up, and plan check cost us almost a year when it usually is 3 months. We're really working to thread the needle here, and it is down to the final line. So we're both Chris Barlow, our project architect, and myself, we're here and available for questions. We're very eager to receive the city and this commission's permission to move the project forward and Lord willing, begin work very early this coming year. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, actually, just a very quick question on the lights on the railing on the top. They're going to be directional.
No,
They're not going to be directional. They're just facing straight down.
yeah,
or-
they're fixed into the bottom of the railing, and
Yeah, I'm just seeing in the specs here that you can.
Oh.
Make them direct. Maybe that would have been better for the architect, but sorry. Yeah.
then if anything, we would tilt them to wash inward, because that would provide more. And I can't imagine people. I mean, once they're installed, people won't even know that they're adjustable.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we'd want to wash as much of the deck inward as possible.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Are there any public comments on this project? Oh, hello.
Good afternoon. I'm Jean Rash. I think the project looks fine. I'm here really on a tangential issue. I'm the president of the Monterey Vista Neighborhood Association. And as such, I read the agendas of meetings when I can. And I noticed that it's a conversion from commercial to residential. And the question in my mind is, does this set any precedent in terms of residential codes or approach to roof decks? And I'll tell you why that's of interest. I was asked to join in looking at a proposal that I don't even think came before you or anyone else. It was in a design stage. I was asked to look by the Old Town residents and on a design with a roof deck. And there were a lot of problems with it, and Chris is aware of that. Anywhere, it never got anywhere, but I realized roof decks are a thing, and this was going to be a third story in a tight neighborhood, and it was the first time it come to my consciousness. Well, then I go visit my brother who lives in the Seattle area, and there's roof decks in residential areas all around Seattle. And he lives in Renton, and they're starting to go up, and they're on the third floor looking right down into his backyard. And I'm thinking, wow, is this spreading? Is this going to be an issue we need to deal with on a residential level? And if I understood what Chris Schmidt was trying to help me understand, there might not be anything in residential areas about roof decks, but I think there are height limitations. So is it clear that there's no precedent set here? Is it clear, or do we need to work on getting addressing roof decks? Are they going to be third stories? Are they going to be extra stories? And that's my concern, is that it be clearer for residential areas. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris, do you have, or staff Levi, do you have anything to talk to on this subject?
So procedurally, we typically like to hear all the public comments, and then if the commission wants to direct any of those comments or questions.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments on this project? Or is anybody online, Spencer, that's got their hands raised?
I see no one online with their hands raised, but I will remind the public to join by telephone, dial 833-568-8864 toll free. Today's webinar through Zoom is 161-914-9563. To provide public comment via Zoom, please use the raise your hand function at the bottom of your screen. To provide comments by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand and then *6 to unmute when called upon. Public commenters will be announced using their last 3 phone number digits or the name typed into Zoom. Public speakers will be called upon in order of their hands raised. There's a 3-minute time limit for today's meeting. Please stay within that limit. Thank you. And I still see no one with their hands raised.
Thank you, Spencer. So Levi, if you could address maybe what the city stance on roof decks is
Yeah.
currently.
I think the simple answer to that question would be that no, this project would not set any precedent as it relates to roof decks. As Mr. Schmidt laid out in his presentation, every project for architectural review permit that comes before this committee is required to meet the findings individually. So it's not really dependent upon past approvals. So I think that would be the easiest way to answer that.
Thank you. Should we open it up for committee comments on this project?
I was not here for the original hearing. I was out of the country, I believe, last year. But I am a big proponent on utilizing existing buildings and converting them to residential. The committee has seen several projects proposed like that. This building has been slowly deteriorating and is, for lack of a better word, an eyesore at this time. So I am looking forward to seeing this, and I think it'll be a great addition for the Lighthouse area. And I think the architects and the owner have done a good job in the proposal.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll chime in. I think we gave it unanimous approval the first time around, and we thought it was good then. I just think it's the adaptive reuse of a building like this, and the addition of housing should always be applauded. It's nice that you're saving the building, and it's nice that you're creating housing. And I think it's, I like the fact that the building's not trying to do too much. It's just sort of there. It's a box. It's nicely detailed. It's nicely proportioned. And I think it's a good project. I've always liked this project, and I'm looking forward to seeing it built.
I'd only have more to say along the same lines. I think it's really welcome. It'll be really nice to see this activation. It's more of a question for Chris. I mean, if this is converting completely to housing, right? And in a mixed use area, sometimes you have some requirement to keep some store frontage or something like that. But I don't think that's an issue here at all. There's plenty of a mix of the both in the area. I was just curious kind of in that regard.
I'll just note, there's no requirement to keep mixed use. The retail space fronting Lighthouse will stay. It's about 700
will,
feet.
okay.
About 700, a little under 700 square feet. So there's a small space at the front.
Perfect. Great. One other, I mean, I hinted at it with the lights. I mean, I think let's definitely make sure they are tilted in. That's the only thing I'd be a little concerned of. You could see that from the street pretty easily. And so just making sure those are shielded as much as possible towards the deck itself. There was a small portion that was in kind of bluish turquoise. You said for future. That was that like the potential for a trellis or something like that? Is that what, I'm just curious what that was.
No, that area, at that area, the railing for the deck exceeded the 35-foot height limit. And so they really wanted to have that part of the project, and I had outlined the ways they can do that. So they would either apply for a variance in the future or some sort of plan change that would allow these types of features to be approved.
Okay. And it's, again, I think this is a great project. I think we had seen some kind of trellis there, was mentioned to sort of soften the elevator. And just it's my personal opinion, I do like those sort of features. I think they actually add to a roof deck and make it feel welcoming and that it's being used. And so I enjoy those things. I'm sorry, it's been a process getting here at this point, and I know you're being a little more conservative, but that's just my personal opinion on those things. The roof decks are almost like porches now in a lot of urban areas. You see that activity and you see each other, and there's something pleasant about that. Understanding concerns of privacy, but I think we usually consider those. I think the applicants usually consider those as well.
Great. Any other comments from the committee?
I just want to, if you don't mind, I'd like to make one more comment. I know, we didn't dive too into, why it went from a projected 3-month plan check to a 12-month plan check, but I know that there's a big focus on the city to streamline the permitting process of housing projects. So it's important that you document whatever happened there so that future projects can understand and, the city can learn from it and applicants can learn from it. So, you're right. That's a tough year with what's happened in interest rates as a developer. To be held up that time is tough. So I don't have a process for you to do it, but I would urge you to, before it's lost, to make sure you document what's happened there and let the city know.
Any other comments? I move to approve 601 Lighthouse Avenue Architectural Review Permit Application ARP 22-0201.
Does that include the suggested condition that you spoke of earlier
The condition that nothing,
with the height?
the height, it goes over the height of the handrail. as
And
far
we
as
can just
furniture.
state into the record that we pulled the previous condition that
Right.
was applied to the
The
resolution.
same conditions that applied to the last meeting.
Yeah, we can do that.
That'd be great.
Do we need to add Pam's condition that the railing mounted lights shoot inward?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So the railing mounted lights need to be directed as inward as possible.
I second.
Okay. Any other comments before we vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations. This can be appealed to the planning commission within 10 days. Just saying. All right, we're going to move on to item number 5. Consider 639 Belden Street. Oh, I'm sorry. Kim needs to come back. I'm sorry. I'm just chomping to get at that
Raring to
Christmas
go.
party.
We're making good time, making good time.
What's that?
Tonight,
It's
that's-
tonight, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to item number 5. Consider 639 Belden Street. Architecture review permit ARP 23-0056, and we've got Matthew back.
Yes, I will share my screen. Today we're here to talk about 639 Belden Street for a architectural review permit for a second story accessory dwelling unit at today's architectural review committee meeting. The recommendation from city staff is that the ARC adopt the resolution to approve the architectural review permit and conditions of approval for a second story ADU, or accessory dwelling unit. A bit of a reminder as to why this ADU is before the ARC. If the ADU exceeds the maximum permitted height, which for this property is 20 feet with the roof pitch, then the maximum height of an ADU can go up to 25 feet with approval through ARC. It's within the R3 zone, and all of these other features apply to it. The property is in the northwestern side of the city, near the Lighthouse Pacific Plan area up in New Monterey. And the site has a primary dwelling on the right side of this figure next to Belden Street, and there's a garage in the backyard, and the ADU would be constructed on top of the garage. Like so. There would be a balcony as well that would project in front of the garage. The general layout inside includes 2 bedrooms near the rear property line and the living room and kitchen closer to the primary structure. The plans that are included here and shown for this presentation are those that were provided before the last architectural review meeting, and they are the plans that were included as part of the packet that went out on Friday. Since that time, there's been some revisions, which I'll talk about in just a moment, but these are reflecting what is on the record and what we had available for noticing for this meeting. And the original proposal included a 22-foot, I believe 6-inch height. And things have changed. But yes, the staircase would go up. You can see the balcony extending out here. The originally proposed roof matched the roof pitch of the primary dwelling of a 12.4 roof pitch. And the other side of the proposed ADU, existing versus proposed, and the southern elevation, which can be seen from the uphill property neighbor. There are clerestory windows in the 2 bedrooms and a sliding clerestory window for the bathroom. Findings required for approval through ARC is that the proposed siding form, mass, and architectural style must be found appropriate. The ADU and the originally proposed ADU does meet the development standards and includes appropriate siding. It meets the appropriate setbacks. And following ARC, it would be able to go to an appropriate height at 22 feet 6 inches. And the matching roof pitch required the height exceedance up to 22.5 feet. Views, privacy, and living environment must not be unreasonably impaired. At the prior ARC meeting, we received 3 comments, and views, privacy, and the living environment were identified as potentially affected. Story poles were installed prior to that meeting and are still up at the property prior to this meeting. The ARC requested a site visit to further assess the potential view impacts from the adjacent property, and that site visit was conducted earlier this afternoon at 3 p.m. The property from which the view impacts were potentially identified were from 638 Spencer Street. There are 2 apartment units on the lower floor and 1 apartment unit up above. It is the bottom 2 units, which would be primarily affected by the roof pitch. Following that meeting, there were some proposed alterations from the applicant, including a reduced roof height. The story poles were installed for that reduced roof height. And those were what were reviewed this afternoon for the site visit. And the provided revised site plans were given to city staff Tuesday, December 5th. And the roof height adjustment would be a 1 foot 11-inch reduction to 20 feet 7 inches. And this would represent a change from a 412 roof to a 212 roof. And this would enable them to still have the same roofing type as the primary structure. And either direction it goes, whether it be the altered roof pitch or the height exceedance of above 20 feet, review and approval through ARC is still necessary. One public comment letter has been received. There were assertions that the lowered roof height were not enough, and that their rental income and property value would still be negatively impacted. And there was a request for a condition for the roof height to not exceed 18 feet. The revised plans that were provided yesterday included a reduced height from the original roof height to here. And it maintains the rest of the structure's height. The height of the roof eave here is approximately 18.14 feet above the garage slab level. So for the full roof height of the second story, it couldn't come to 8 feet, but regardless. And this is from the side with the reduced pitch to 212. Here is a cross section of the interior with the bedroom in the back, the dining room, kitchen in the front, and the garage down below. You can see the current roof here, which would be demolished, and what would be installed on top of it. And here's a more zoomed out view, including the front main house on the right. At the site visit this afternoon, a couple photos were taken. This photo is taken from the height of the banister of the nearby property. And this is from standing up, and this is from the unit on the right. Findings required for approval are that views, privacy, and living environment not unreasonably impaired. Project consistency with city plans and design guidelines are required to be found, and design guidelines and development standards are all consistent for this project. Additionally, the exterior finish, colors, materials, and exterior features need to be found appropriate. And as proposed, they are compatible with both the new Monterey neighborhood and almost identically match the primary structure at the site. There are no specific conditions of approval at this time placed on the project, and it would be required to comply with the required conditions as contained in the resolution, which are those standard building permit related ones. And with that, staff's recommendation is to adopt the resolution approving the architectural review permit and conditions of approval. That concludes staff's presentation. The applicant is also here today.
Thank you, Matthew. Are there any questions for staff?
Were there any images from the unit on the left? I wasn't able to attend.
I didn't get them from the left,
No.
but the other commissioners may be able to speak to.
In my car.
Yeah. So
It's very similar to the one on the right.
any other questions? So with this reduction in height, the material, the composite shingle is the same. to go to with like a 100% flat roof, you'd have to go to like a tar and gravel or a standing seam or something ridiculously different. I'm just saying, is that even possible?
It may be a question better directed to the applicant.
Okay.
You can.
Well, we'll save that for comments. So you don't know the answer to that. Okay. Would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. My name is Steve Mickle, a designer and general contractor. Given the neighbor's concern about the height, I did convince my client to reduce the roof pitch to a 2 and 12. That's the lowest we can go per code and still use composition shingles and maintain the hip roof that matches the front. And that's the desire, is to have this match the front house as much as possible. My client is opposed to a flat roof for the reasons he wants the architecture to tie into the main house. Between the two pitches, I was able to lower the roof 1 foot 11 inches. We're simply taking the existing roof off, adding 12-inch floor joists on top of the existing walls and a standard 8-foot plate height. So we are where we are. Even going to a flat roof with a slope, at the most I'm going to lower it's another foot. So that's where we are. The property owner is here today. I don't know if he wants to make any comment, but
okay,
that's about where we are.
Any questions for Mr. Mickle? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would the property owner like to make a presentation?
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time. My name is Anthony Caronia. My wife and I both own the property. And as Steve mentioned, we did try to compromise and supply the property owner in the back with what we feel was a compromise in the reduction of the roof height. Flat roof is not something that I would like to see on that project. It just would look vastly different, in my opinion, as far as what the front house looks like. I would gladly, discuss potentially, something that would make the rear property owner like the project a little better. But as far as the pictures that I saw and taking the picture from the top of the banister, when one is standing, I think they end up seeing maybe a little bit of ocean, definitely the mountains across the bay, but even reducing the height 6 inches or more, I'm not quite sure that's going to really do much as far as increasing visibility. You mentioned not seeing the pictures to the left of the unit to the left. I think that unit would look right down the driveway, and looking right down the driveway, that view would be of the roof of Bayview School. So there wouldn't be afforded any view impact, I believe, from that unit as well. I don't really have anything else to say. I just hope the project gets approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Compromise.
I do have a question for the owner. I'm taking from your comments that you have not seen the story poles from the neighboring property.
I have.
You have.
I have, yes.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Absolutely. Both before and after.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to open it up to public comments. And I'd like to keep it like at a 3-minute per kind of thing, so because we have, I think, more than one, and then there might be some people online. Anybody would like to come up to the podium? Or maybe not. Okay. Thank you, Chris. Hello.
Hello,
Just ignore him. You can go ahead and start.
I'm Christine Gaither. I'm the owner of the property behind on
So
Spencer
it's
Street,
238?
638.
638 Spencer, right?
And to clarify, I'm not sure if you were asking if he had seen the view from my property, but he has not seen it from my property.
Thank you.
And the unit on the left, as I think you saw today, has more of a restricted view than the unit on the right, the way that the story poles are right now. the unit on the right has kind of a view off to the right side where, you know, kind of their view kind of center left is blocked and then the right is kind of clear, but on the left, it's pretty much the entire view is blocked. And I guess I'm just asking for a compromise that is a win-win for both of us. And I still think that a flat roof would accomplish that. It would still give them what they're looking for. They would still get their ADU. Their rental income wouldn't be impacted by a flat roof. Their property value wouldn't be impacted by a flat roof. But the way it stands now, with my view being blocked, that is going to impact my rental income and will impact my property value. And I just don't think that's fair to approve the project as it currently is at my expense. So I guess I'm just asking for just another compromise that we could all agree on.
Thank you. I have one quick question for you. What year was your property built? 638 Spencer?
In the late 1970s.
Late 70s. Okay, thank you. Hello. Oh, would you like to speak? Yes, please.
My name is Chandra Seeley, and I also live at 638 Spencer Street. I'm in my third out of the 4 units. And the reduction in the roof really opened up a wedge for the left, a wedge of sky, also on the right. Another thing that I would like to point out, those story poles, we need to keep in mind also don't account for the additional eave hangover, which are the eaves on those buildings are quite large. And another thing that I would like to bring up, sorry, I get a little nervous up here. Give me a little time, I'll loosen up. I keep going back to the back windows on the property facing that deck needing to be opaque. I mean, they're going to be, honestly, somebody standing on the deck is looking straight in the bedroom and the bathroom, and somebody in the bedroom and the bathroom is looking straight up into the living room on those apartments. The reduction of the roof really didn't make the difference we were hoping for, and we just keep hoping that we can find a way to get a flat roof so that everybody gets what they want. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments? Is there anybody online, Spencer? We're going to close
I
public.
see no one online.
Oh, sorry, one more. Thank
Apologize.
you.
Yeah. My name is Meredith Herbst. I'm one in the other tenant that's on the right. My biggest concern is, I think what Sean just said, is just the windows in the bottom that will look straight into my unit. You know, I spend a lot of time in my living room, spending time on the patio, and I'm concerned of how much access they'll be able to see and vice versa for me to see them. I mean, half the reason that I took the apartment was the view. And I am concerned of the person who'll be moving into the right that may cost my landlord a lot financially and having to lower the rent. Because I mean, we pay a lot to live in the area. And I do think that it's something just to take into consideration for my landlord. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. We'd have to open it all the way up again.
I mean, we're still in public comment.
We're still in public comment.
Yeah.
So you can, oh, because since you were the applicant, I think, okay, so yeah, you've been given the permission to speak.
Compromise, I would agree with. We need to make it so it works for everybody. As far as the windows go, we can make the glass obscure and opaque. I own a window company and I have a lot of knowledge about glass, and we can definitely do something with the type of glass that you cannot see through at all, but let light in. Steve, I may be wrong. You may be able to correct me on this, but there may be a way that we can maybe reduce the height, maybe another 6 inches on the roof line. Maybe by modifying or lowering the interior garage height a little bit. And it's going to cost me more to do that. You know, it'll be an added expense. I'm not going to ask the property owner to assist me with that, but there might be a way we might be able to reduce the height another 6 inches, half a foot. Steve, you might be able to clarify on how that's done.
Thank you for that. Yeah. Mr. Mickle, you want to talk about that technically? It's like the 12-inch joist, because could that be
Well.
a lower
the
profile?
Existing plate height in the existing garage is 9 feet.
I see.
What I mentioned to Anthony, the owner, is cutting that plate height down 6 inches to 8'6". I don't want to reduce it any less than that because I got plumbing and
Yeah.
heating ducts and that sort of thing. So 6 inches isn't a lot, but we went down 1 foot 11 inches. Mr. Caroni is willing to lower the walls lower the wall 6 inches and absorb the cost, and maybe that would help.
Great.
Other than that, the structure is what it is, and we're
Yeah.
simply adding on top of it.
Okay.
I figure it's going to cost Mr. Caroni about $2,500 to lower those walls. It's mostly labor.
Yeah. Right.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, we're going to close it to public comment and open it up for committee discussion. I'd like to, ask you a couple of questions. Justin is our resident architect. So a 9-foot plate height on a garage, is that standard, or is that a foot higher than normal? Is it usually 8 feet?
It's usually 8 feet, but I think what Mr. Mickle pointed out, that in this instance, he does have a lot of systems that he has to get in. He's putting a habitable space over a non-habitable space. They have to get P-traps for plumbing, and you're going to have to sprinkle that building, I assume, as well. No fire sprinklers, okay. But there's still, duct work. So the duct work is probably going to have to be underneath the joists.
Right.
So that's going to be another foot. So, you get much lower than the 6 inches they're talking about, and you're going to be banging your head on stuff.
Okay, that was, so 6 inches is doable. I mean, you can still get a car in there.
Yeah, you can definitely still get a car or truck in there. And I when we first saw it last week, I didn't suggest it because they were existing studs, but it did seem like that was an area where it would be easy to grab a couple of inches.
I'm personally am not a fan of flat roofs. I own a home in Monterey that has a flat roof. It's a mid-century modern house, but this is, an older bungalow style, and we've got a thing in the back, and we're trying to tie them together, and we don't want it to look like, a Frankenstein job. So I appreciate the fact that we're trying to, match the hip roof to the front structure. And we're able to, lower it by, 1 foot 7 inches, and now it sounds like another 6 inches. So it's almost 2 feet. I just,
Clarification.
yeah,
I'm
and
so
I would
sorry.
imagine that,
It's 2.5 feet, actually.
2.5 feet, all
5 inches.
told from the original. I mean, for me personally, I would rather have a little bit of an impaired view, but look out over a nice hip roof than look over a flat roof because it's just, I don't think it's very appealing. Especially if it's not incongruous with the rest of the property. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of that solution at all. And that's kind of what our purview is the subjective stuff about what looks good and what doesn't look good. And I can't imagine a flat roof looking good on that ADU.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And I know there's a lot of talk about compromise and who's compromising and who's not compromising. I feel like the applicant made a pretty good faith effort here to lessen the impacts of the building. When I view concerns, obviously in a coastal area, are going to come up all the time. And I think the thing we have to look at is privacy being preserved, and is the entirety of the view being taken. And when we saw the images last week, again, they were taken at railing height and they were taken at the center of the deck. We all looked at it and said, oh, wow, it looks like we've lost the entirety of the view. I think if the site visit told us anything, it's that we didn't lose the entirety of the view. Certainly when you're in the middle of those decks, you're looking at that roof. When you go to the outer edges of the deck, there's a very good blue water view. You see the curve of the view, you see the curve of the bay from one side, and you see the filtered view of the bay through the trees. And then of course you see the mountains beyond. So I think the extent to which that view has been preserved is a direct result of the applicant's good faith effort to lower the ridge line. So I think it is, when I look at the resubmittal, I think it's a case where the process has led to a better project for the applicant and the neighbors.
Any other comments?
I do appreciate the fact that a property owner should be allowed to do what they want to do on their properties as long as it fits into the policy and guidelines that have been established. That being said, when I did go to the site visit, I was a little bit surprised. And while there are views, I do see the neighboring property tenants and the owner's concerns about the views being impacted. Not only that, it was much closer to the neighboring property once being built than I had to see it. It didn't translate how close it was on paper to me. I do appreciate the fact that both sides are willing to compromise. As a former deputy sheriff, I know all too well what can happen when neighbors have issues. Land use issues are one of the biggest ones. And so I do appreciate the willingness to compromise on both parts. If perhaps the additional 6 inches that the homeowner is proposing, the property owner is proposing, the 6-inch reduction, that may be the best solution. I too am not a fan of flat roofs. My house had a flat roof, and as soon as we moved in, we had it redone for several reasons. But we were really happy when our neighbor finally had theirs redone as well. So I believe the willingness to compromise and the proposals that are being suggested might be the best solution.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree about that proximity of the structures, and that that gives the feeling that the breadth of the views are impacted, and that feeling of space is impacted, and could affect the quality of life of the residents and perhaps the property values. I don't think seeing the Monterey Bay is necessarily what defines a good view. To me, it's having space to look out. So I too would support the 6-inch reduction, but it's also difficult to conceptualize visually without seeing it again.
You got something? Ryan?
It seems like a really appropriate and good conversation from the
Yeah.
panel. So
Thanks. One of the things I noticed in this neighborhood, there's been a view grab going on for decades. You know, it's like you tack this is way before there was an architectural review committee, and this property at 668. No, anyway, the view that's being impacted on Spencer Street, that drastically impacted the view of their neighbors across the street on Spencer Street back in the 70s when that whole place was built. So, this has been going on for decades of, you grab a view here and then they grab a view there, and then it keeps getting kind of passed around. So it's really hard. And we have to, as a committee, make the hard decisions here, because what we're looking for is good faith compromise. And I'm seeing that from the applicant, and I like to see neighbors working together on stuff like this. But yeah, I mean, they're not losing 100% of their view. They're losing a certain percentage of it, and then the upstairs unit is unaffected. it's a really nice property. Thank you so much for letting us, take a look inside. And I would hope that, your rents aren't going to be drastically reduced by this new project, but I think it's a good compromise.
Only other thing I'd add is I agree with the flat roof comments as well. I think those aren't as appealing as the reduction in the views. They can be unsightly, they can heat up a little bit more depending on how it's finished, of course, but so that is a concern of different things popping up and seeing more and more flat roofs is unappealing.
Yeah, I don't see a flat roof as a solution to this at all.
And
Any
I think Mr. Mickle's comment that, a flat roof on that wide of a building picks them up 12 inches. And with the trimming of the studs in the garage, they've added half, they've given them half of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not going to make that much of a
Yeah.
difference either way. Call for a motion.
Before we get a motion, it sounds like there's going to be some modifications made. So Matthew, can you just clarify for the committee with the 6-inch reduction, what that maximum height would be? So
Yes.
that we can include that in the motion?
Yes,
That includes the 6-inch reduction in the first floor.
yes. So there were two things there. Opaque windows are required for ADUs. So those, they have to be opaque. Except there will be the little opening window for the bathroom. The overall height with the 6-inch reduction would be 20 feet and 1 inch based on the revised site plans. So just squeaking by on that inch above the 20.
So if they'd gone 7 inches from the get-go, we wouldn't even be here.
You still have to approve the modified roof for not being
True.
consistent with the
Yeah,
pitch.
the
So
consistent-
it was
okay.
one or the
All
other.
right.
Yeah.
It was coming to you guys either way.
Yeah.
Okay,
22.
okay.
So it sounds like the modified maximum roof height would be 20 feet, 1 inch.
1 inch.
Okay.
I'll go ahead and,
Can I ask one more
yeah,
question?
go ahead.
When I look at the plans that were submitted, they clearly call out opaque windows. So
That was already in it
that was,
last time.
we don't need to make that a condition.
Yes,
No,
I was just
okay.
trying to clarify
Yeah,
that
okay.
overall.
Yeah, that was part of the last, thank you for that. So I move to approve 639 Belden Street architectural review permit ARP 23-0056 for preliminary and final architectural review for a second story accessory ADU. And that is with a reduction of 6 inches to the first floor and an overall maximum height of 20 feet, 1 inch.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments before we vote? All those in favor? Aye.
Hi.
Opposed? So this passes unanimously. This can be appealed to the planning commission within 10 days. Thank you all for participating. We appreciate your candor and generosity.
Thank you to the neighbor for letting us in today.
Yeah. Any committee member comments? Planning office updates?
So just briefly, update from the previous planning commission meeting of last week, November 28th. Planning commission did consider and approve the 2101 North Fremont Street Hotel project. This is the Avid Hotel. This is a 42-room, new 42-room hotel there at the corner of Fremont and where is it the existing Casa Verde Inn? Previous Casa Verde Inn location. So that was approved, the use permit for the hotel by the planning commission. So something that will probably be on an ARC agenda sometime in the future. So just want to make you guys aware of that. We do have things tentatively scheduled for the next ARC meeting. We do want to know if that's going to be I'm just looking at the date
Is that
here.
like Christmas week or something?
Yeah, and that's why I want to bring it up.
The 27th or 20th?
be the 20th. It's noted in the planning update as the 22nd. That is incorrect, but it will be
I think it's the
the
20th.
20th. Yep, December 20th.
I can be here.
I
I've
will
got
be
it.
here.
I'll be here.
Great. Sounds like we'll have a quorum. So we do have an item tentatively scheduled for that. So we'll move forward with that. That just for clarification for the public viewing, that will be December 20th. And that's all we have.
Thank you, Levi. I move to adjourn. All those in favor? Aye.